God's friend, Abraham. On Genesis chapters 12 to 18. The word letter V mean and indicates to a word letter verse. For examples, the word V1 is the meaning of verse 1 and the word is the meaning to verse 2. To God be the glory. Chapter 12. Abram's journey to Canaan. V1 The Lord said to Abram, leave your country. Leave your home. Leave your father's house. Go to the country that I will show to you. V2 And I will make you become a great nation. I will bring many good things to you. I will make your name famous. You will bring good things to people. V3 I will be kind to those who are kind to you. I will do evil things to those who do evil things to you. All the families that are on the earth shall receive good things because of you. Verse 1. Abram was the person who was later called Abraham. See Genesis 17:5. When Abram left Haran, his father Terah did not go with him. Terah lived in Haran for 60 years after Abram left. This is how we know that Terah was 70 years old when Abram was born. See Genesis 11:26. And Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. See verse 4. Therefore, Terah was 145 years old when Abram left Haran. But Terah lived for 205 years. See Genesis 11:32. So Terah lived in Haran for 60 years after Abram left. V4 So Abram went, as the Lord commanded him. Lot went with him. Abram's age was 75 years when he left Haran. V5 And Abram took Sarai his wife. He took Lot, who was his brother's son. He took all their possessions that they had gathered. He took all his relatives who had been born in Haran. They set off together. And they went to the country that is called Canaan. When they came to Canaan, V6 Abram went through the region. He came to the big tree at Moreh. It was near to the town that is called Shechem. At that time the Canaanites lived in that country. V7 Then the Lord appeared to Abram. He said, I will give this land to your descendants who will live after you. So Abram built there an altar to the Lord, who had appeared to him. V8 From there he went to the mountain that is to the east of Bethel. He set up his tent there. Bethel was on the west of him. Ai was east of him. He built an altar there for the Lord. And he prayed to the Lord. V9 After that, Abram traveled further toward the Negeb. Verse 5. The distance from Haran to Shechem, which is in Canaan, is about 600 kilometers 400 miles. Verse 6. The country was called Canaan because the Canaanites lived there. The Canaanites were the descendants of Canaan, who was a grandson of Noah. Verse 8. Many years later, Jacob gave the name Bethel to this place. See Genesis 28:19. It probably did not have that name in Abram's time. But the people who wrote Genesis used the name. It tells us where Abram went. Verse 9. The Negeb is the southern part of the country that is called Canaan. It is the part of Canaan that is nearest to Egypt. Abram visits Egypt. V10 There was not enough food in the country and so Abram went to Egypt. He stayed there, because the famine was very bad in Canaan. V11 Before Abram entered Egypt, he spoke to Sarai his wife. He said, I know that you are a beautiful woman. V12 The inhabitants of Egypt will see you. They will say, this is his wife. Then they will kill me, but they will keep you alive. V13 Say that you are my sister. So they will not hurt me because of you. They will not kill me in order to take you. V14 Then Abram entered Egypt. The inhabitants of Egypt saw that the woman was very beautiful. V15 When the princes of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh. And they took the woman into Pharaoh's house. V16 Pharaoh loved Sarai and therefore he was kind to Abram. Pharaoh gave to Abram sheep, cows, donkeys, servants, maids, and camels. Verse 10. Egypt is a country in northern Africa. The river Nile provides water to Egypt. Therefore, crops grow in Egypt even if there is no rain. So there was no famine lack of food in Egypt. there was a famine in Canaan because there had been no rain. Verses 11 to 13. Abram went to Egypt, which was a foreign country. He did not know its customs. He was not confident that God would protect him and Sarai. He thought that someone might kill him in order to take Sarai as a wife. So he decided to say that Sarai was his sister. And, if anyone took Sarai as a wife, he would not kill Abram. And so perhaps Abram and Sarai would escape before the wedding. But the person who took Sarai was Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And when Sarai was in Pharaoh's court, she could not escape. When Abram called Sarai his sister, he did not tell the truth. But what he said was not completely wrong. Sarai was Abram's half-sister. Sarai and Abram had the same father, but they did not have the same mother. See Genesis 20:12. At that time, some people married their half-sisters. Later, the Bible said that a marriage with a half-sister is wrong. See Deuteronomy 27:22. Verse 15. Pharaoh was the king of Egypt. Pharaoh was not the name of this king, but all kings of Egypt were called Pharaoh. V17 But the Lord made Pharaoh and his family very ill. He did this because of Sarai, who was Abram's wife. V18 So Pharaoh called Abram. He said, "You have done an evil thing to me. You should have told me that she was your wife." V19 You should not have said, "She is my sister." Because you said that, I took her as my wife. Now here is your wife. Take her and go away. V20 And Pharaoh commanded his men to guard Abram. And the men sent Abram away. Abram took his wife and everything that he had. Verses 17 to 19. Sarai could not escape from Pharaoh's court, but God saved her. Abram should have told the truth about Sarai when he arrived in Egypt. If he had done that, this trouble would not have happened. Verse 20. Pharaoh realized that Abram's God had punished him and his family. See verse 17. Pharaoh wanted to prevent further trouble. So he told his men to make Abram leave Egypt. But Abram had gained many possessions that Pharaoh had given to him. See verse 16. When Abram left Egypt, he took those possessions with him. So Abram became richer because he received goods from Egypt. Many years later, a similar thing happened. Abram's descendants lived in Egypt for 400 years. And when they left Egypt, they gained many possessions. See Exodus 12:35-36. They took those possessions with them. So God's people became richer because they received goods from Egypt. Chapter 13. Abram and Lot separate. V1 So Abram left Egypt. He took his wife. He took everything that he had. And Lot went with him. They went into the Negeb. V2 Abram was very rich. He had many animals. He had much silver and gold. V3 From the Negeb he went further. He went to Bethel, where his tent had been at the beginning. He stopped between Bethel and Ai. V4 He stopped at the place where he had made an altar before. There Abram prayed to the Lord. V5 And Lot, who went with Abram, also had sheep and cows and tents. V6 The land could not provide enough food for both of them if they lived together. Their possessions were so many that they could not live together. V7 Abram's servants and Lot's servants fought against each other. These were the servants who looked after the animals. At that time the Canaanites and the Perizzites lived in the country. Verses 1 to 4. For the name Negeb see Genesis 12:9 and the comment. For the name Bethel see Genesis 12:8 and the comment. Verse 6. Their possessions included many animals, which need grass. There was not enough grass in that region for so many animals. Verse 7. They fought because each wanted their own animals to have the grass. The Perizzites were a tribe that lived in the country called Canaan. V8 Then Abram said to Lot, "You and I must not fight against each other. Your servants and my servants must not fight against each other. We are relatives. V9 The whole country is in front of you. Separate yourself from me." If you go to the left, I will go to the right. If you go to the right, I will go to the left. v10 And Lot looked. He saw that there was plenty of water in the valley of the river Jordan. It was like the Lord's garden. The region round Zoar was like Egypt. The Lord had not yet destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. v11 Lot chose for himself all the valley of the river Jordan. So Lot traveled to the east. Abram and Lot separated from each other. v12 Abram lived in Canaan. Lot lived among the cities that were in the valley. After that, Lot moved his tent near to Sodom. v13 Now the men of Sodom were wicked. They did many things that the Lord had forbidden. Verse 9. Abram was very kind to Lot. He allowed Lot to choose where he would live. Abram would live on the land that Lot did not choose. Verse 10. The region round Zoar was like Egypt. Egypt was a flat country and the region round Zoar was flat. The river Nile provided plenty of water for Egypt so that crops grew well. And the river Jordan provided water for Zoar. Most of Canaan was hilly and it was not like Egypt. Verse 11. Later, Lot realized that this was a bad choice. See Genesis 19:24-25. Abram had better land. Verse 12. When Lot left Abram, he began to move into bad company. Lot chose the way that was easiest in verses 10 to 11. That was a bad choice. Lot moved his tent nearer to Sodom, where the inhabitants were wicked in verses 12 to 13. That was not wrong. But he came nearer to evil companions. Lot went into Sodom. See Genesis 14:12. He lived among wicked men. Because he did that, he needed Abram to rescue him. See Genesis 14:14-16. Lot took wicked men as his companions. See Genesis 19:1. Lot sat at the gate of Sodom. And the gate was the place where people talked together. Because Lot did that, he needed God to rescue him. See Genesis 19:15-16. Lot moved his tent nearer to the evil city, Sodom. And, when he had done that, he could easily move further. And, when he was in Sodom, he could easily take wicked men as his companions. We must not do what Lot did. We must not do little wrong things. If we do them, we can more easily do greater wrong things. v14 After Lot separated from Abram, the Lord spoke to Abram. The Lord said, Look at the things that are round you. Look from the place where you are. Look towards the north. Look towards the south. Look towards the east. Look towards the west. v15 I will give to you all the land that you see. I will give it to you and to your descendants for all ages. v16 I will make your descendants as the dust that is on the earth. Nobody can count the dust on the earth and nobody will be able to count your descendants. v17 Get up and walk through the whole country. I will give all of it to you. v18 So Abram moved his tent. He went to the big trees at Mamre and he stayed there. Mamre is also called Hebron. At Mamre he built an altar so that he could make offerings to the Lord. Verse 15. The land that Abram saw was Canaan. God had brought Abram from Haran to Canaan. Abram had gone to Egypt, but he had returned to Canaan. Later, Abram's descendants went to Egypt for 400 years. But they returned to Canaan. Canaan became the country of God's people and it was called the land of Israel. Chapter 14. The fight between 4 kings and 5 kings. v1 At this time there were 4 kings. One was Amraphel and he was the king of Shinar. Another king was Arioch and he was the king of Elasar. Another one was Chedorlaomer and he was the king of Elam. The other king was Tidal and he was the king of Goyim. v2 These 4 kings fought in a war against 5 kings. One out of these 5 kings was Bera and he was the king of Sodom. Another one was Birsha and he was the king of Gomorrah. Another one was Shinab and he was the king of Admah. Another one was Shem-eber and he was the king of Zeboim. The last one was the king of Bela, which is also called Zor. v3 These 5 kings joined their armies together in the valley that is called Siddim. That is the valley where the Salt Sea is. Verse 1. The 4 kings came from countries that are east of Canaan. They came with their armies to fight against 5 kings. These 5 kings ruled cities in the valley that is called Siddim. See verse 3. That valley is at the east edge of Canaan. It is a part of the valley that Lot chose. See Genesis 13:11. v4 For 12 years, Chedorlaomer had ruled over these 5 kings. In year 13, they refused to obey him. v5 In year 14, Chedorlaomer came. And the kings who were with him came. They overcame the Rephaim people who lived in Ashtaroth Karnaim. They overcame the Zuzim people who lived in Ham. They overcame the Emim people who lived in Shaveh Kiriathaim. v6 And they overcame the Horites who lived in Mount Seir as far as El Paran. That is at the edge of the desert. v7 Then the 4 kings turned back and they came to Enmishpat. That is also called Kadesh. There they destroyed all the region where the descendants of Amalek lived. They also overcame the Amorites who lived in Hazazontamar. Verse 4. Chedorlaomer had an agreement with the 3 kings that were with him. Together they forced the 5 kings to pay taxes to them. Perhaps these taxes were money or perhaps they were goods. They did that for 13 years. But after that time the 5 kings refused to pay taxes. Verses 5 to 7. The 4 kings came for 2 reasons. They came in order to overcome several more nations, so they would rule over a larger area. And they came in order to seize money and goods from the 5 kings. The Horites were a tribe of people. For Amorites, see Genesis 10:16 and the comment on that verse. v8 Then the 5 kings went out. One was the king of Sodom. Another one was the king of Gomorrah. Another one was the king of Admah. Another one was the king of Zeboim. The last one was the king of Bela, which is also called Zor. They fought in the valley that is called Siddim. v9 They fought against the 4 kings. One out of these 4 kings was Chedorlaomer, king of Elam. Another one was Tidal, king of Goyim. Another one was Amraphel, king of Shinar. The last one was Arioch, king of Elasar. So 4 kings fought against 5 kings. v10 Now in the valley that is called Siddim there were many deep holes. People had made these holes when they took bitumen from the ground. The kings of Sodom and Gomorrah ran away and they hid in the holes. Other people ran away to the hills. v11 So the enemy took all the goods in Sodom and in Gomorrah. They took all the food that people had stored. v12 They also took Lot, who lived in Sodom. And they took all Lot's goods. Lot was the son of Abram's brother. The enemy took all these things and they went away. Verse 8. The 5 kings did not wait until the 4 kings came. They heard that the 4 kings were near. So they joined their armies together. See verse 3. And they prepared to defend their land. Verse 10. The armies of the 4 kings were more skillful fighters than the armies of the 5 kings were. So the armies of the 5 kings ran away. Bitumen is a black substance that people find in the ground. In ancient times, builders used it. See Genesis 11:3. For Valley of Siddim, see verses 1 to 3 and the comment. Verse 12. They took Lot as a slave. And they also took other men and women as slaves. See verses 16 and 21. Abram rescues Lot. v13 Then one person who had escaped came to Abram. He told Abram the Hebrew what had happened. Abram the Hebrew was near the big trees that belonged to Mamre. Mamre was an Amorite and he was the brother of Eshcol and of Aner. These people were Abram's friends. v14 So Abram heard that the enemy had made his relative Lot a prisoner. Abram had trained 318 men who were born in his house. He led these men and they followed the enemy as far as the place that is called Dan. v15 There Abram divided his men into 2 groups. Abram and his servants attacked the enemy at night. They defeated them and they pursued them to Hobah. Hobah is north of Damascus. v16 Then Abram brought back all the goods. He also brought back his relative Lot with his goods. And he brought back all the women and the people. Verse 13. The Amorites were a tribe of people. Mamre was the name of a town. See Genesis 13:14. But in this verse, Mamre is the name of a person who lived in that town. Genesis has other examples of this. Haran was a man. He lived in the city that was called Ur. His relatives went to the city that was called Haran. See Genesis 11:28-31. Shechem was a man. He lived in the city that was called Shechem. See Genesis 33:18-19. Verses 14-15. Abram usually lived at peace with his neighbors. He did not usually fight. But because Lot was a prisoner, Abram had a good reason to fight. And he fought wisely. He and his servants attacked when most of the enemy were asleep. They attacked as two groups. One group attacked from one side and the other group attacked from the other side. Abram had 318 men. The armies of the four kings were certainly much more than that. But God gave success to Abram. Abram's attack was successful for two reasons. He acted wisely and he trusted in God. We need to do the same. If we wish to succeed, we should trust in God. But we also need to act wisely. From Dan to Sodom is a distance of 240 kilometers 150 miles. v17 So Abram defeated Chedorlaomer. And he defeated the kings who were with him. Then he returned. The king of Sodom went out to meet Abram. He met him at the valley called Shaveh, which is also called the King's Valley. v18 And Melchizedek also met Abram. He was the king of Salem and he was a priest of the great God. He produced bread and wine. v19 And he blessed Abram. He said, I pray that the great God will be kind to Abram. He is the God who made the heaven and the earth. v20 Praise the great God. Because he has delivered your enemies to you. And Abram gave to Melchizedek a part of the goods that he had brought back. He gave to him one thing out of every 10 things. Verse 18. Salem was probably the city that is also called Jerusalem. Melchizedek was the king of Salem. The word Melchizedek means righteous king. He produced bread and wine. Bread and wine were ordinary food. It was natural that Melchizedek should welcome Abram after his fight. It was natural that he should give food to him. Melchizedek gave honor to Abram because Abram had overcome an enemy. But these things have an extra meaning to us. Salem means peace, and so King of Salem means King of Peace. We might call Christ King of Peace and Priest of the great God. And Christ made bread and wine have a special meaning. So to know about Melchizedek helps us to know some things about Christ. See Psalm 110:4 and Hebrews 7:1-17. Verse 20. He has delivered your enemies to you. Melchizedek knew that God had given success to Abram. Abram gave one thing out of every 10 things. Abram had brought back all the goods. See verse 16. It was not possible to return all the goods to their owners. Some of the goods had come from other cities. See verses 5-7. So Abram shared the goods in a fair manner. He gave a share to Melchizedek, although Melchizedek's people had not helped in the fight. Many years after this time, God told Moses to do a similar thing. After a battle, they shared the goods. And the people who fought the battle did not take all the goods. The people who did not fight also had a share. See Numbers 31:27. People sometimes call one thing out of every 10 things a tithe. Hebrews 7:1-25 refers to Genesis 14:18-20. v21 The king of Sodom said to Abram, Give the people to me, but take the goods for yourself. v22 But Abram spoke to the king of Sodom. He said, I have made a firm promise to the great Lord God, who made the heaven and the earth. v23 I promise that I will not take anything from you. I will not take anything that belongs to you. I will not take the smallest thing. I will not even take the string of a shoe. Otherwise, you might say, I have made Abram rich. v24 I will take nothing except what the young men have eaten. And I will take the share of the men who went with me. And let Anah, Eshcol, and Mamre take their share. Verses 22 to 24. We do not know why Abram did not take his share. He accepted goods from Pharaoh in Egypt. See Genesis 12:16. And he accepted goods from Abimelech. See Genesis 20:14-16. But he did not accept these goods. Perhaps Abram knew that the inhabitants of Sodom and Gomorrah were wicked. See Genesis 18:20. And he did not want people to say that his wealth came from wicked people. Perhaps that was the reason. Chapter 15. God makes promises to Abram. v1 After these things the Lord appeared to Abram. The Lord said, Do not be afraid, Abram. I am protecting you. I will reward you very greatly. v2 But Abram said, Lord God, your gifts are no advantage to me, because I still have no child. When I die, my possessions will belong to Eliezer of Damascus. v3 And Abram said, You have not given a child to me. A man who is my servant will own my possessions. v4 Then the Lord said to him, This man shall not have your possessions. Your own son shall have your possessions. v5 And the Lord led Abram out of the tent. He said, Look towards heaven. Count the stars, if you are able to count them. Then the Lord said to him, So shall your descendants be. v6 Then Abram believed the Lord. Therefore the Lord considered that Abram was righteous. Verse 2. God had not given a son to Abram. That was a worry to Abram. He wanted a son so that his family would continue. And he had many things that God had given to him. He wished that those things would become his son's possessions. Eliezer was Abram's chief servant. If Abram died without a child, Eliezer would own all Abram's possessions. That was the law of the country. Damascus is a city north of Canaan. Verse 5. It was night and the sky was very clear. Abram could see very many stars. There were so many stars that nobody could count them. God told Abram that nobody would count his descendants. Nobody could count them because they would be so many. Verse 6. Abram was not perfect. Like everybody else, he had done wrong things. But God considered that Abram was righteous right with God. The reason was that Abram believed God. He believed that God would give him a son. We are not perfect. We have all done wrong things. But we can believe God. We can put our trust in Him. We can put our trust in Jesus. Then God will consider that we are righteous right with God. See Romans 4:3, 24, 25. v7 And the Lord said to Abram, I am the Lord. I brought you from Ur in Chaldea. I have given this country to you so that you may possess it. v8 But Abram said, Lord God, how can I know that I shall possess it? v9 The Lord said to him, Bring to me a young cow that is 3 years of age. Bring to me a female goat that is 3 years of age. Bring to me a male sheep that is 3 years of age. Bring to me a dove, a bird, and a young dove. v10 And Abram brought all these. He cut each of these into 2 pieces. He laid the 2 halves of each one opposite each other. But he did not cut the birds into pieces. v11 Some wild birds that eat meat flew down. They tried to land on the dead animals. Abram scared them so that they flew away. Verse 7. God repeated a promise that he had made earlier. See Genesis 13:15 and the comment. Verse 9. A dove is a kind of bird. Verse 10. This was probably an ancient custom when people make a firm agreement with each other. Perhaps it was like this. 2 people kill animals as an offering to God and they cut the animals into 2 parts. They separate the parts and they walk between the parts. That shows that they must keep the agreement. Otherwise, someone will cut the people into 2 parts. God used this custom to show that his agreement with Abram was firm. So Abram separated the 2 parts of each animal. Then fire appeared and it moved between the 2 parts. See verse 17. The fire was a sign of God. v12 When the sun set, Abram slept. He felt fear and there was great darkness. v13 Then the Lord said to Abram, Be certain about what I tell you. Your descendants will live in a country that does not belong to them. They will be slaves there. They will have to work hard for 400 years. v14 But I will punish the nation that they serve. Afterwards your descendants shall come out of that country. They shall take with them many possessions. v15 You yourself shall die in peace and then you shall be with your fathers. When people shall bury you, you will be very old. v16 And your descendants shall come back to this country. The sons of the sons of the sons of your sons shall come back. But before they come back the Amorites must do still more evil things. Verse 16. This country was the country that was called Canaan. The Amorites were Canaan's original inhabitants. Later, Abram's descendants lived in Canaan. And God told them to kill the Amorites. See Deuteronomy 20:17. But God did not say that immediately. He waited for more than 400 years. If the Amorites did good things, he would save them. But if they continued to do evil things, he would kill them. God does not kill people quickly. He waited for 120 years before he killed people by the flood. See Genesis 6:3 and the comment. v17 The sun set and the sky was dark. Then a pot appeared, which contained fire. It produced smoke. Also a branch appeared, which burned with flames. They both moved between the pieces of meat. v18 On that day the Lord made a firm agreement with Abram. The Lord said, I give this country to your descendants. I give all the land from the river of Egypt to the great river, which is called Euphrates. v19 I give the Kenites land and the Kenizzites land. I give the Cadmonites land v20 and the Hittites land. I give the Perizzites land and the Rephaim people's land. v21 I give the Amorites land and the Canaanites land. I give the Girgashites land and the Jebusites land. Verse 18. God repeated a promise that he had made earlier. See Genesis 13:15 and the comment. And see Genesis 15:7. The river of Egypt is a small stream that is on the border. It is between the two countries, Canaan and Egypt. The river Euphrates is north and east of Canaan. Verses 19-21. Kenites, Kenizzites, Cadmonites, Hittites, Perizzites, Amorites, Girgashites, and Jebusites were tribes of Canaan's original inhabitants. Chapter 16. Sarai and her maid Hagar. v1 Sarai, who was Abram's wife, had no children. She had an Egyptian maid, whose name was Hagar. v2 Sarai said to Abram, The Lord has made me unable to produce children. Lie with my maid and have sex with her. Perhaps I shall obtain children by her. And Abram did what Sarai suggested. v3 Abram had then lived for 10 years in the country that is called Canaan. So Sarai, who was Abram's wife, took her maid Hagar, the Egyptian. Sarai gave Hagar to Abram her husband so that Hagar could be his wife. v4 And Abram had sex with Hagar and she became pregnant. When Hagar knew this, she did not respect Sarai. v5 And Sarai said to Abram, Hagar does not respect me. I pray that the blame for this will be on you. I gave my maid to you to have sex with you. As soon as she became pregnant, she did not respect me. I want the Lord to be a judge. I pray that he will blame either you or me. v6 But Abram said to Sarai, You may control your own maid. Do to her whatever you decide to do. Then Sarai was cruel to Hagar, and Hagar ran away from Sarai. Verse 3. Genesis tells us that several of God's ancient people had two wives. But that does not mean that to have two wives is right. Abram's wife was Sarai. Abram took Hagar as an extra wife. He did that because he had no son. God had promised that Abram would have a son. See Genesis 15:4. But Abram thought that he must do something. He thought that otherwise God's promise would not happen. But God wanted Abram to trust him. God did not want Abram to marry Hagar. God gave Abram a son, by his wife Sarai, when the time was right. See Genesis 21:1-2. God wanted Abram to wait for that time. Verses 4-6. Sarai was Abram's wife and Hagar was only an extra wife. But Sarai had no child and Hagar was pregnant. Hagar would soon produce a child for Abram. So Hagar thought that she was equal in rank to Sarai. Sarai blamed Abram for this, and Abram did not help her. Sarai wanted to show that Hagar was only a maid. So she was cruel to Hagar. God rescues Hagar. V7 The Lord's angel found Hagar by a well of water in the desert. That well is on the way to Shur. V8 And the angel said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, where have you come from? Where do you go? She said, I have run away from Sarai, whom I served. V9 The Lord's angel said to her, Return to Sarai, whom you served. Serve her again and obey her. V10 The Lord's angel also said to Hagar, I will make you have a great number of descendants. They will be so many that nobody will be able to count them. Verse 7. An angel is a servant of God who brings messages from heaven. But in this verse the Lord's angel means God himself. He did not send a servant but he came himself. We know that because of the words in verse 13. Verse 8. God already knew where Hagar had come from. He asked the question so that Hagar would speak to him. Verse 9. God often says this to people who run away from difficulties. He says, I know that things were difficult. But go back and overcome the difficulties. I will be with you and I will help you. Verse 10. God intended that Abram would have only one wife, Sarai. He did not tell Abram to take an extra wife, Hagar. See the comment on verse 3. So God did not intend that Abram should have descendants by Hagar. But God loves people. So he looked after those descendants. And he promised to make them a great nation. V11 And the Lord's angel said to her, You are pregnant and a son will be born to you. You shall call him Ishmael, because the Lord has heard you in your trouble. V12 He shall live like a wild donkey. He will be every man's enemy and every man shall be his enemy. He will live in front of all his relatives. Verse 11. Ishmael means God heard. Verse 12. God had promised that Abram's descendants by his wife Sarai would live in Canaan. See Genesis 12:7. And God had also promised that Abram's descendants by Hagar's son Ishmael would be a great nation. See verse 10. So Ishmael's descendants could not live in Canaan because there was not enough space for both nations. Therefore Ishmael's descendants would live in the desert. We are not sure what the last sentence in verse 12 means. Sometimes in the Bible, in front of means to the east of. V13 So Hagar gave a name to the Lord who spoke to her. She called him, You are a God who sees. She said, I have really seen the God who sees me. V14 Therefore people call the well Beer Lahai Roi. It is between Kadesh and Bered. V15 And Hagar had a son for Abram. And Abram called his son Ishmael. V16 Abram was 86 years of age when Ishmael was born to Hagar for Abram. Verse 14. Beer Lahai Roi means the well of the one who lives and sees. She may have meant, I have seen God and I am still alive. Chapter 17. God makes an agreement with Abraham. V1 When Abram was 99 years of age, the Lord appeared to him. The Lord said to him, I am God who can do anything. Stay near to me and have no blame. V2 And I will make my firm agreement between me and you. I will make you have a very great number of descendants. V3 Then Abram fell down so that his face was on the ground. God said to Abram, V4 Listen to me. My firm agreement is with you. You shall be the father of many nations. V5 Now your name shall not be Abram. Your name shall be Abraham, because I have made you the father of many nations. V6 I will make you to have a large family. I will make nations out of you. Some of your family shall be kings. v7 And I will keep my firm agreement between me and you. I will keep it with all your descendants who will be after you. It is a firm agreement that shall last for all ages. I will be your God. I will be the God of your descendants who will be after you. v8 And I will give to you the land where you live. I will give it to your descendants who will be after you. I will give all the country that is called Canaan. It shall be for your descendants a possession that shall last through all ages. And I will be their God. Verse 5. Abram means high father. Abraham sounds like father of nations. Stay near to me and have no blame. God did not say, do nothing that is wrong, so you will have no blame. Instead, he said in this verse, stay near to me. And Genesis 15:6 tells us that Abram believed the Lord. Therefore the Lord considered that Abram was right with him. That was true about Abram, and it is true about us. We have all done wrong things. We all deserve to have blame. So we must stay near to God. We must believe God. If we do that, God takes away our blame. Then, like Abraham, we are righteous right with God. v9 And God said to Abraham, as for you, you shall keep my firm agreement. You yourself shall keep it. And your descendants who will be after you shall keep it. Their children and their grandchildren shall keep it. v10 This is my firm agreement, which you shall keep. It is a firm agreement between me and your descendants who shall live after you. You yourself shall be circumcised. And every male person who is among you shall be circumcised. v11 You shall circumcise yourselves. This shall be a sign of the firm agreement that is between me and you. v12 You shall circumcise every male baby that is among you. You shall circumcise him when he is 8 days old. You shall circumcise every male who is born in your house. You shall circumcise every male whom you buy with your money from any foreigner. You shall do it even if he is not your descendant. v13 Every male person that is born in your house shall be circumcised. Also every male person that you buy with your money shall be circumcised. So a mark of my firm agreement shall be in your body. It will show that my firm agreement shall last through all ages. v14 You shall separate from his people any male person who is not circumcised. He has broken my firm agreement. Verses 10-12. To circumcise means to cut the skin from the end of a male person's sex part. When someone has done that to a person, that person is circumcised. It is a sign that God has made a firm agreement with that person. And it is a sign that that person is a member of God's people. God's people became a nation. Later, they were called Israelites or the children of Israel. They are also called the Jews. The firm agreement that God made with Abraham is called the Old Firm Agreement. People were circumcised as a sign of that agreement. But when Jesus Christ came, he made a new firm agreement between God and people. And now people who belong to God do not need to be circumcised. See Galatians 5:6, 6:15. God promises a son to Abraham. v15 And God said to Abraham, Sarai is your wife. But now you shall not call her Sarai. Her name shall be Sarah. v16 I will bring many good things to her. Also, I will give a son to you by her. I will bring good things to her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of nations shall come from her. v17 Then Abraham fell down so that his face was on the ground. And he laughed. He said to himself, a child will not be born to me. I am 100 years of age. And Sarah will not be the mother of a child. She is 90 years of age. v18 And Abraham said to God, I wish that Ishmael might live near to you. v19 God said, No. Your wife Sarah shall be the mother of a son for you. You shall call him Isaac. I will make my firm agreement with him. It will be a firm agreement for his family who shall live after him. It shall be a firm agreement that shall last through all ages. v20 But I have heard your words about Ishmael. I will bring good things to him. I will make him have a big family. And I will make him have very many descendants. He shall be the father of 12 princes. And I will make him a great nation. v21 But your son Isaac shall be born to Sarah at the season next year. I will make my firm agreement with him. v22 When God had finished his talk with Abraham, God went up away from him. Verse 15. Sarai means laughter. Sarah means princess. Verse 17. Many years before this, God promised that Abraham would have many descendants. And Abraham believed God. See Genesis 15:5-6. But in this verse, Abraham does not believe what God says. Verses 18-19. Abraham's plan was this. Abraham thought that he was too old to have another son. He already had a son, Ishmael, whose mother was Sarah's maid, Hagar. Therefore, Abraham thought that Ishmael must have the rights of the oldest son. God's plan was this. Abraham would have a son by his wife Sarah. That son would have the rights of the oldest son. God would make his firm agreement with that son. Verse 20. Ishmael was not in God's plan. But Abraham prayed for Ishmael. See verse 18. And God gave to Ishmael a place in his plan. Ishmael's descendants would be a great nation. God had already made this promise to Hagar. See Genesis 16:10 and the comment. v23 Then Abraham took Ishmael his son. He took all the slaves who were born in his house. He took all the slaves that he had bought with his money. He took every male person who was among the men of Abraham's house. He circumcised them on that same day, as God had told him to do. v24 Abraham was 99 years of age when they circumcised him. v25 And Ishmael his son was 13 years of age when they circumcised him. v26 On that same day they circumcised Abraham and they circumcised his son Ishmael. v27 And they circumcised with him all the men in his house. They circumcised with him those who were born in the house. And they circumcised those whom Abraham had bought with money from a foreigner. Verse 23. Abraham obeyed God. See verse 10 and the comment on verses 10-12. Every man must be circumcised. That was a sign that there was a firm agreement between God and the man. It was only a sign. It did not bring a man to God. To come close to God, a man must put his trust in him. He must believe. Genesis tells us, Abram believed the Lord. Therefore the Lord considered that Abram was righteous right with God. See Genesis 15:6. Chapter 18. God visits Abraham. v1 The Lord appeared to Abraham. Abraham was near to the big trees at Mamre. He sat at the door of his tent. It was in the hot part of the day. v2 When Abraham looked, he saw 3 men. They were standing in front of him. And when he saw them, he ran from the door of the tent. He went to meet them. He bent his head down very low. v3 He said, Sir, if you are pleased with me, do not pass by me. I am your servant. v4 I will bring some water so that you may wash your feet. After that, please rest yourselves under the tree. v5 I will fetch a piece of bread so that you may eat. Since your journey brought you here to me, please eat here. After that you may continue your journey. So the men said, Do as you have said. v6 And Abraham ran into the tent to Sarah. He said to her, Prepare quickly a quantity of flour. Mix it, and make cakes. v7 And Abraham ran to the animals. He chose a young cow that was good for meat. He gave it to his servant and the servant prepared it quickly. v8 Then Abraham took cheese and milk. He took the young cow, which was ready to eat. He put these things in front of the men. He stood by them under the tree while they ate. Verses 2-5. Abraham gave a friendly welcome to the 3 men. He would do the same for any visitors. That was the custom. Abraham thought that the 3 men were ordinary travelers. He did not know that 2 were angels. And he did not realize that 1 was God. Verses 6-8. The quantity that Abraham said was 3 seahs. That was a large quantity. And Abraham chose a young cow. He did not choose a young goat, which would be smaller. So this meal was a large one. Abraham was very generous to his guests. And he served his guests, but he did not eat with them. v9 The men said to Abraham, "Where is Sarah your wife?" And he said, "She is in the tent." v10 The Lord said, "I will certainly return to you in the spring. When I return, Sarah your wife shall have a son." And Sarah was behind him. She listened at the door of the tent. v11 Now Abraham and Sarah were both very old. Women produce children until a certain age, but Sarah had passed that age. v12 So Sarah laughed to herself. She said to herself, "I have grown old and my husband is old. I cannot have a child. I cannot have that pleasure." v13 The Lord said to Abraham, "Sarah should not have laughed. She should not have said, 'I cannot have a child, since I am old.'" v14 Nothing is too difficult for the Lord. At the time that I have mentioned, I will return. In the spring, I will return to you. When I return, Sarah shall have a son. v15 And Sarah was afraid. Therefore she said, "I did not laugh." But the Lord said, "No, you did laugh." Verse 9. The men already knew that Abraham was married. And they knew his wife's name. Ordinary travelers would not know these things. Verse 10. The door of the tent was a curtain on the front of the tent. Verse 12. Sarah still did not know who the men were. And she thought that they joked. Verse 13. God knew what Sarah said. He knew that, although she only spoke to herself. Verse 15. Sarah was afraid. But the reason for her fear was not that she might have a son. She was afraid of God. And she realized that the men came from God. Abraham's prayer. v16 Then the men set out from there and they looked toward Sodom. And Abraham went with them as they began their journey. v17 The Lord said, "I will not hide from Abraham the thing that I intend to do." v18 I remember that Abraham's family shall become a great and powerful nation. And all the families that are on the earth shall receive good things because of him. v19 I have chosen him so that he may command his children. He shall also command his family who shall live after him. He will command them to live in the Lord's way. He will command them to do right things and good things. So the Lord will bring to Abraham the things that he has promised to him. v20 Then the Lord said, "I have heard very bad things about Sodom and Gomorrah. Their deeds are very evil." v21 Therefore I will go there. Perhaps they have actually done all the things that I have heard about them. I will know the truth. v22 So the men went further and they traveled toward Sodom. But Abraham stayed and he stood in front of the Lord. Verse 16. Abraham went with the men for a short distance. That was the custom. Abraham would do the same for any travelers who had visited him. But he knew that one traveler was God. Therefore, Abraham had another reason to go with them. He loved to be with God. Verse 17. God wants us to know what he is doing. Jesus said the same thing to his followers. See John 15:15. He said, "I do not call you my servants. A servant does not know what his master will do. But I have called you friends." And Jesus told his followers what he was doing. Verse 22. So the men set out. There were two men that went further. And they were angels. See Genesis 19:1. The other man was God. He stayed and he talked with Abraham. Until Jesus was born, God seldom appeared as a man. But he appeared to Abraham. Abraham was called God's friend. See James 2:23. v23 Then Abraham came near to the Lord. He said, "Will you really kill the good people with the bad people?" v24 If there are 50 good people in the city, will you destroy the place? Please let it remain because of the 50 good people. v25 Do not do a thing like that. Do not kill the good people with the wicked people. If you do that, the good people will suffer with the wicked people. Do not do that. You are the judge of the whole earth. So you will certainly do the thing that is right. V26 And the Lord said, Perhaps I will find 50 good people in Sodom city. If I find them, I will let the whole place remain because of them. V27 Abraham answered, I am only dust and ashes. But I have boldly decided to speak to the Lord. V28 What will you do if 5 out of the 50 good people are missing? Will you destroy the whole city because 5 good people are missing? And the Lord said, I will not destroy it if I find 45 good people there. V29 Again Abraham spoke to him. He said, If you find 40 good people there, will you let it remain? The Lord answered, If there are 40, I will not destroy it. V30 Then Abraham said, Please do let not the Lord be angry. So I will speak. Perhaps there will be 30 good people there. The Lord answered, I will not destroy it if I find 30 there. V31 Abraham said, I have boldly decided to speak to the Lord. Perhaps you will find 20 good people there. The Lord answered, If there are 20, I will not destroy the city. V32 Then Abraham said, I pray that the Lord will not be angry. I will speak again only once. Perhaps you will find 10 good people there. The Lord answered, For 10 good people I will not destroy the city. V33 And the Lord finished his talk with Abraham. The Lord went away and Abraham returned to his tent. Verse 23. By this prayer, Abraham changed what God intended to do. Before Abraham's prayer, God intended to destroy Sodom if some inhabitants were wicked. After Abraham's prayer, he intended to save Sodom if there were 10 good inhabitants. So our prayers can change what happens. But Abraham could not have prayed like this if God had not told him his plan. So God and Abraham were working together. Verse 25. Abraham said, You are the judge of the whole earth. You will certainly do the thing that is right. That was a statement and a request. It was a statement. Abraham said it because he trusted God to do the right thing. It was a request. Abraham asked God not to destroy good people. He meant that to destroy good people would be a wrong thing. 3 different things were possible. God might destroy the whole city because it was evil. Abraham asked God not to do that. God might save the city because some people were good. Abraham asked God to do that. God might save the good people and destroy the other people. Abraham did not think of that. But that is what God actually did. God does not usually give judgment on whole cities or on whole nations. And he does not usually save whole cities or whole nations. He does save single people. And he will give judgment on each person. Verse 27. Abraham said, I am only dust and ashes. He meant that he was worth nothing. And God was very much greater than he was.